copy of this. I don't want to take one of the members, but thank you, Chairman. Taylor?
Okay, welcome to the Agricultural and Consumer Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank each one of you. This bill is a bill that we voted on in the House unanimously. It passed unanimously. This is what was House Bill 645. And it was simply a cleanup that the medical cannabis, the Access to Medical Cannabis Commission that this body created for the last 2 years have gone through hardships of essentially getting this right. We've got advisement from the Attorney General's office. We've got advisement from the lawyers and DOAS that this bill that was put together, House Bill 645, would answer a lot of the questions, would tie up a lot of the loose ends. And so we put that in here. The bill is also sitting in Senate Health. But after speaking with the Rules Chairman in the Senate, he gave me approval to put it onto this bill. Now, some questions may be arise by the fact that 195 is in Title II, and House Bill 645 is in Title 16. But I will remind the committee, and I think all of us should know, that the hemp plant and the marijuana plant are the same species. So these are subjects of similarity. So putting in here, both are deal with cultivation, albeit in two different types of cultivation, but both deal with cultivation. We also appropriated in this House a large amount of money. Chairman Watson, after sitting and having several hearings with the executive director of the Access to Medical Cannabis Hearing, talking about the needs and the problems that they had to get around with the State Purchasing Act, things that we are going to be mindful of going forward. The ability to have this delivered to those invalid patients that are unable to get out of their homes to get the medicine that we legally say in this state they can have. So this was just simply a vehicle that, Mr. Chairman, we have put House Bill 645 in. Matter of fact, it's my understanding that if there is too much of a conflict in title, which I don't believe that there would be due to the similarity of the plants, that we could strike the hemp portion of the bill and let it just be solely what was in House Bill 645.
Thank you, Bradley. Looking for some questions from our committee. Chairman Packer, who is number 6? Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike, for bringing this bill. My question on the banking part of credit unions. Does this clear up what they need to be able to for bank accounts for people that just growing the cannabis to be able to open bank accounts and transact with banks and credit unions?
Yes, sir, it does, and thank you for the question. The credit unions approached us as we were writing 645 and asked to be included. They had asked to not be included in House Bill 324 that we passed in 2019, but specifically came to us this year and asked if they could be a part of the process, that they would like to be included with the banks. Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to have you join into our hemp farming act.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Corbett, Section 1 of the bill, is that portion in your bill that we passed?
That portion is in 336, House Bill 336, which we passed and the Senate passed last week as well.
So
we could strip it out if there's any, if there's an issue with it, we can strip it out. There's not an issue.
Like it, I think we would be in place to do that if that would give you more comfort.
I'm at whatever the pleasure of the committee is. If the committee's okay with it, if y'all want to strike it out, I think that we would, that would solve any type of title question for sure. But I think that because of the fact that the plants are of the same species, you've got a similar subject.
Yeah, I feel like we do. I mean,
Okay.
It's the same species, but it's a legitimate worry. I think we could do that. I see a Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to comment on that. I would certainly like to strike the hemp portion out of this, because my fear all along has been that it was just a matter of time before the hemp and marijuana, medical cannabis, ran together, and we would likely cross-pollinate and bring the THC level up too high in the hemp to continue to be able to use it. But I think that's the right thing to do. Take hemp off of this where it'll just be
Absolutely.
medical cannabis. And I make a
Okay.
motion that we do that, strike the hemp portion.
Okay, hearing that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, passes to, strike section 1. So now, we have the other bill, with that, we have the bill with, section 1 stricken, and are there any other questions for Trustee Martin?
Mitchell.
Okay, we've got, several, representatives on the line, Representative Mitchell and Lewis Ward. And, so Representative Mitchell, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, actually. I have a question on the university portion, so line 722 to 732. And I think I have reached out to Representative Bradley before. Is there a reason universities are only allowed to study the oil itself, whereas the rest of the divisions do with oil and products? And is that something you want, the oil and products in that section?
Help me out on the question.
I couldn't hear it either. Could you repeat it?
Yes, the provision on universities only deals with THC oil. Is that by intent, or do you want that to also say and products?
And you're on line,
722 to 731.
I think if we were allowed, I don't have a problem with products, but I'm trying to be very cautious here that if we were to allow products, the oil would be the base of it. That the oil would give them the ability to study exactly what they needed to study for research purposes. So there wasn't a need for them to have products. Now, we could add that, I don't have a problem with it, because all they will be doing is studying what the licensee allows them to study. And
Right.
just so that for the committee's purposes, any university, the only two universities, I think there was someone misspoke in the Senate. The two land-grant universities, the University of Georgia and Fort Valley State, are still the only ones that have opportunity to have a license and to actually grow. And they have not accepted that yet. And so what this bill does also removes that mandate. So if they want to do it and they want to apply for the NIDA designation, which would be the National Institute of Drug Abuse, they can do that. That'll always be there for them. But we had 5 other universities that said, we have no interest in growing, we have no interest in cultivating, we simply have specialties at our universities that our doctors work on, and specifically would like to study this oil and report back to the cultivators. This is what our research found and how this affects prostate cancer, how this affects Alzheimer's, dementia. And so that's the type of data we need. Working in tandem with the Medical Association of Georgia, I think would be fantastic. But if products would be available, so, and let me also state this, there was some confusion there. The only products we allow in this state, low THC oil would be the tincture, would be the transdermal cream, the gelatin capsule, and then the syringe, I don't forget what that's called.
Dropper.
Sublim. So that's all. This is not adding smoking. This is not adding gummy bears or edibles or anything like that. So those products could be studied at the university. If that motion comes forward, I would not be opposed to it, but right now, I think the universities would have what they need to study the product, or the oil and the substance.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Representative Mitchell?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because we have such strong kind of proof and pharmacokinetic analysis capacity as part of the university system, that it might be something that they are interested in, that I haven't talked to them at all. So I was just thinking in line with the rest of the bill, it would be consistent everywhere else that says oil and products. So allow the university to retain oil and stock to potentially give us more information about things like the topical claims we wouldn't necessarily now be able to do. But I don't mind either way.
Okay, let council, Higley, have you got,
Chairman, if you flip back to page 28, line 709, actually does say the commission shall issue permits for colleges and universities located within the state of Georgia to possess limited quantities of low THC oil and products.
let council, I think, has answered your question, and I think we're good with it, Representative Mitchell. I think it does, you probably couldn't hear that, but I think you were referring back to some other, language that does cover what your maybe concerns are. Line 709, knowledge is products. Okay, getting back to the bill, any other questions for, Representative Bradley?
Have a number.
You got, oh, I'm sorry, that's it. Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little more background on this for the committee. As you know, we passed this law. We've allowed for this to happen in our state. And they're going to start production in our state this year. We've already collected money from applicants, and contracts will be awarded to those applicants that can actually grow cannabis in our state. So it will happen in this year. So we need this bill to make sure that that it's regulated and controlled, and the money has been appropriated in the budget to allow them personnel to do that. So everything is in place, but we need this bill to allow people to have access to it and to do the things that we've already told the people of Georgia that we will do. So thank you for getting all this worked out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, hearing no other questions or comments, Representative Bentley.
If I can use this mic right here.
Absolutely. Number
Thank
6.
you.
What number is that?
Number 6, I'll be very brief. Right here.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to add on to what Chairman Watson stated, this bill has been worked on and passed, and I voted it for it before, and I will vote for it today. But my question today, is there someone in this room or this online that can help me learn more about this medical cannabis commission? Because I heard you mention about the applicants and all of that process. I'm just totally lost on that process. So if there's anyone that can help me learn more about that, I would certainly appreciate it. But I will be supporting this bill because I've supported it all the way through before. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments from anyone else on the committee? Well, hearing none, I'd be open to a motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
If I could make a final comment to Representative Bentley's question. We do have a website here in the state, Access to, Georgia Access to Medical Cannabis. You can read who the members are. They've got a year-end report that they've submitted, and it's an all-encompassing information on there. And I'd be happy to give her that link as well.
Right.
Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. We got one other, nobody's in a quick hurry. Aviva, have you got any words of wisdom for us here? This bill's right up your alley.
I'd be honored to talk for a minute if possible.
Just a minute.
Okay.
We got a lot of business.
Thank you.
We'll give you a minute.
No, I really appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions for the committee to consider for next year, I suppose. One is, one of the biggest challenges I've heard is to actually fund the hemp program. So since the applicant fees are so expensive in the medical cannabis, I'm wondering if some money can be funneled towards the hemp program. The other thing that is an absolute concern of mine is that we can't, the raw hemp product, as I've said a few times, is not allowed according to, I think, both the medical and the hemp, industrial hemp. And I think that's an issue because, you know, it's like the difference between raw peaches and dried peaches. And the science is there. When you juice the actual raw cannabis, there's so much medicine there. A lot of people say the smoking and the oil is the best form of medicine, but I think it depends on the individual. And so it's really good to have the options if we want to take care of our people. And one more thing I wanna say is, I understand your fear about there being like, it's the same plant, it is. And, you know, I've been rooting for industrial hemp before there was a definition of hemp being 0.3% THC or less. I've always considered it the same plant. And my biggest fear is that we wouldn't free this plant fast enough to help our environment with all of the environmental, you know, great things that hemp does for our environment. The trichomes clean the air when it's growing outside, it's great for the bees, it, you know, remediates the soil, and so my fear is that we're gonna be so afraid of medical cannabis that industrial hemp will never be free. So one more thing is that, I also have empathy for your need to support our industries here, and the monopolies, so to speak, because I like shopping at Publix, I like shopping at Kroger, you know. But have you ever known someone who makes their own artisan bread to put out a big business? You know, have you ever known someone who makes homemade cookies to put out a bakery? You know, to put that out, so I think we don't need to be scared of having some kind of a home grow for, especially the folks that cannot afford the expensive oil, but they deserve the medicine, so that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. Appreciate those comments.
Thank you.
That's all the business I have today. Has anybody got anything else to bring before the committee? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks for being here.